And the title of my message this morning is Go Small or Go Home. Go small or go home. Come on, sounds exciting already. Can you turn to your neighbor and help me preach? Say, go small or go home. Come on, nobody leave the building. Nobody leave the building. So after my massive message last week on vision, and I can see clearly now, I thought I'd just keep it in balance and check a little bit and talk about go small or go home. Hey, you know you probably, any cyclists out there? Any cyclists? One cycler? I'll change my story up then, should I? But two cyclists, look at that, eh? Awesome, got three cyclists. Any more? Three. We got three cyclists. Hey, you know the British cycling team got a new coach, a guy called Dave Brailsford, became the coach of the British cycling team in 2003. The British cycling team, up until that point, was terrible. They had in the 100 years of cycling, or almost 100 years of cycling, they'd only won one Tour de France, and they'd won one Olympic gold medal in the space of 100 years. How many people know that's not a super impressive track record for a cycling team? In fact, their cycling team was so bad that a major European bike company refused to sell bikes to the cycling team because they didn't want their reputation to be tarnished. They wouldn't even let them buy bikes because other people would see them riding these bikes and they'd think, hey, we don't want to ride those kind of bikes because the losing team rides those bikes. And so this guy, Dave Brailsford, took over coaching the team, and he had a strategy called the aggregation of marginal gains. So his strategy was that he would look for 1% gains that they could make across a whole bunch of different small areas, and he figured that if he could make 1% improvement in small areas, then that would add up to a massive difference over a long period of time. And so what he did was they started off making what seemed like obvious changes, like fixing up the seats on the bikes, getting them dressed with the right kind of lycra. I guess I don't know what cyclists wear, eh? I mean, I always think about that time DJ rocked up in lycra and short shorts. And I looked at him and I thought, man, only a guy like that could pull that off. Imagine if I rocked up with lycra and shorts, man. People would be like laughing at me, but he turns up and he makes it look cool. But anyway, these cyclists, I'm like, man, only DJ can make lycra look cool on a man. But, and so they made all these small 1% changes. They even painted the inside of the team truck so that white, so that they could spot. Or they started making the big changes, then they started making small changes. They painted the inside of the truck to make it white so that they could see small particles of dust that could get into the bike to disrupt them. They actually found out what kind of pillows, true story, what kind of pillows and mattresses the cyclists preferred to sleep on so they could get the best night's sleep, so they could perform the best. They made a whole bunch of these small 1% changes, and over time, at the next Olympics, I think it was like 4 years later, at the next Olympics, at the Beijing Olympics, they actually cleaned up in the Beijing Olympics. They won 60% of the gold medals available. In the next, from 2007 to 2017, they won 178 world championships, 66 Olympic gold medals, and 5 Tour de France victories. And that 10-year period is often regarded in cycling as the most successful run in cycling history. Here's the thing, they always wanted to win, but it wasn't until they started to make small, consistent changes in their lives, small, consistent changes, that they actually started to win. Come on, I got a simple thought this morning, is that your goals won't determine your success in life, your habits will. Come on, your goals won't determine your success, your habits will. It's the small things that you consistently do over time that'll determine whether you win and lose in your relationship with the Lord, whether you win and lose in your marriage, whether you win and lose in parenting. Come on, it's not the big things, it's the small things that you consistently do over time that'll determine whether you win or you lose. You know, I love this time of the year because everyone's setting New Year's resolutions. Hey, people are setting New Year's resolutions. The good news about New Year's resolutions is that people want to change. The bad news is that according to studies, 92% of people give up their New Year's resolution by Valentine's Day. That's the bad news, hey? And we know this is true from last year, eh? And so, you know, but when you think about it, we've all got the same goals. Pretty much got the same goals, eh? I mean, everybody pretty much wants to be healthier. I don't know anybody that says, this time next year, I want to have dangerously high cholesterol and type 2 diabetes. Come on, nobody thinks that way, eh? I don't know any married couple. Come on, Tony and Amanda got married a little while ago. Can we give them a shout out? Look, look at me. Looking good, looking good. You know, I don't know anybody who stands on the altar and says, we want 5 years of happiness, then we're going to separate. Wow. Nobody says that. Everyone has the goal of a lifetime of love and a lifetime of happiness, eh? You know, we've got the same goals, even as a follower of Jesus. You know, all of us in this room, we want to be closer to God and we want to live a life that makes a difference. Come on, all of us have the same goals, but all of us will have vastly different results. Because it's not your goals that'll determine your success, it's the small things that you do consistently over time that'll determine whether you win or lose. Come on, were you hoping for something a little bit more exciting this morning, eh? I tell you, this will change your life, eh? It's the small things that no one sees that results in the big things everyone wants. You know, 2 Kings 5, I love the story of a guy named Naaman. And Naaman's a boss. He's a fierce warrior. He's an important man in Aram. He oversees the whole army. He's the commander of the army. He's got a lot going for him. He's a powerful man, but he's also got leprosy in a time where leprosy was incurable. But his wife has a Hebrew slave girl, and the slave says, hey, you should go and see Elisha, the man of God, because he will help you. He can do miracles. I mean, God can speak through him. God can do something amazing through him. You should go see him. And so he heads out to Naaman with a whole lot of stuff. I mean, he has like a whole lot of silver, a whole lot of gold, a whole lot of clothes, and he turns up at Elisha's house. And I love this because Elisha doesn't even go and see the guy. He knocks on the door, turns up with all this pomp, all this kind of like grandeur, turns up to Elisha's house. And Elisha sends a servant down to tell him, he says, hey, go tell Naaman to wash in the river Jordan 7 times. And Naaman gets angry about it. He's furious and he storms off, slams the door, storms off and says, man, you know, I thought the man of God would have come down and I thought he would have waved his hand over me and everything would have been better. Come on, so many people in church, they want to come. I've been pastoring for a little while. They just want to come and they want the pastor to wave their hand over them and then they think everything's going to get better. But he said, hey, what I want you to do is go and wash in the Jordan River 7 times and then you'll be cleansed from your leprosy. Naaman storms off. He doesn't want to do it. And he's upset. And he says, you know, this is such a small thing. We've got better rivers where I come from. It's kind of must be like the Manawatu River, eh? I don't know what the Jordan River's like, but I ain't washing in the Manawatu River, man. We got some clean rivers where I come from. He's like, I'm not doing that. He goes off, and one of his servants says, hey, if the man of God gave you a big thing to do, surely you would have done it. Why don't you just go do it? And so he turns his mind around. Naaman goes down to the river, and he washes in the river 7 times. He dunks down and comes back up. Dunks down, comes back up. Dunks down, comes back up. You know, here's the thing. Naaman was looking for a big thing to fix his life. He wanted something dramatic to happen, but God chose to heal him by doing a small thing over and over and over and over again. Eh? Come on, sometimes God does miracles, and I look back over last year, and I see so many amazing miracles. Hey, people supernaturally healed. Come on, can we give God a shout out? Because he's a suddenly God and does miracles and does the unexpected, just turns up and does crazy things, crazy provision, crazy miracles. But here's the thing I've found. Most often God's power flows in my life through the small, consistent things that I do over and over again. And I love those miracle moments because they actually don't involve much of me, eh? That's why we love those miracle moments. That's why we want the guy to wave his hand over me, because I don't got to do anything. But actually, sometimes God requires us to do small things over and over again, and it's our consistent obedience, it's our faithfulness, it's the small thing over and over again that brings the power of God and the miracle of God into our life. I can imagine Naaman down the river, and he goes into the water, and he gets back up, and you know what happens? Nothing. And he looks at his skin, and he goes under again, and he comes back up, and you know what happens? Nothing. And then he does it again, goes under the water, then comes back up, nothing happens. Goes under the water, comes back up, nothing happens. Goes under the water, comes back up, nothing happens. Goes under the water, comes back up, nothing happens. Might have been tempted at that point just to stop and go, this isn't working. Nothing's happening. I knew this was a stupid idea. I've tried it, it doesn't work. But he kept going and was complete in his obedience and saw the power of God move in his life. Hey, come on. This is the nature of breakthrough. We think breakthrough just happens because we do something, but actually breakthrough looks like boiling water. It heats up 1 degree at a time, 1 degree at a time, 1 degree at a time, and it looks the same until it reaches a tipping point, and then things start to change. That's the nature of breakthrough in our life. Come on, that's one of the reasons why so many people start with goals, but they give up by Valentine's Day. Because I'm going hard, but nothing's happening. Hey, it's like Clint. He loves the principle of compounding interest. Hey, look, he's getting excited now, man. I've never seen a brother so excited in church. All I said was compounding interest. Come on, the decisions we make compound in life as well. They have a ripple effect. The small things that we do over time will compound in life. It's the small things that no one sees that results in the big things that everyone wants. You know, the San Antonio Spurs, I'm a little bit reluctant to bring up a basketball analogy with Jericho in the front row. I talked it up a little while ago, and then when we played that family sports game, I was talking it up, and I put these guys on first. After I saw them play, I just stopped talking, man. Beat us in the finals. Come on, can we put our hands together for this guy? Hey, wasn't even flexing, wasn't even trying. Jordan over there, come on. Sinking those threes, hey. Yeah. The San Antonio Spurs, a basketball team in the NBA, Texas basketball team, in their locker, they've had this plaque with this quote from a guy named Jacob Rees in there for 25 years, and it says this: when nothing seems to help, I go and look at the stone cutter hammering away at the rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101 blow, it will split in two, and I know it wasn't that blow that did it, but all that had gone before it. Hey. And some people say that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and it is, if you're doing the wrong thing and you're expecting a different result. But how many people know that faith is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Like when you're praying for healing, and you're praying and you're praying and you're praying, and instead of getting better, you're getting worse, but you keep praying. Like you're praying for your teenagers to come back to the Lord, and you're praying and you're praying and you're praying, but instead of getting better, they get worse. But you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and then breakthrough comes in a moment, hey? It's like reaching out to people. I've had people say to me, why do you keep reaching out to that person? They're not interested. You know, I've had people say that about half of you guys sitting in church. Hey, why do you keep reaching out to that person? They're not even keen. Hey, it's like, why do you keep visiting that person? And I'm like, man, the thing is, I'll wear them down before they wear me down. Hey, it's like love perseveres, and keep persevering, keep persevering, keep persevering. It's like when you invite that person to church 9 times and they say no, then the 10th time they say yes. Come on, you just got to keep persevering and keep persisting. You know, it's easy to think that small things don't matter, eh? You know, it's easy to think that the small bad decisions we make don't matter, and it's easy to think that the small good decisions we make don't matter. You know, it's like, I don't know if it's pretty early in the New Year's resolution process for anyone to have started running, but let's say you start running, and you run every day this week, and then you jump on the scales, and you put on 1 kg. Hey, and it's like, man, it doesn't matter if I run or if I don't run. I may as well just give up. It's like when you say, man, I'm gonna do something about my debt, so I'm gonna stop drinking like a latte, and I'm gonna save that money. And so over a month you save $60, And now instead of $10,000 in debt, you've got $9,960 in debt. Come on, and you're like, man, I can't even make a dent at this thing. It's like when you skip church for a weekend, not you guys, but the other guys that aren't here. But it's like when you skip church for a weekend, and you're not at church, and you think, man, and your whole life doesn't fall to pieces. Your kids don't backslide, and your spiritual life is all good, and you think, oh, it's all good. It's not that big a deal, eh? You don't notice the difference because you think, well, what a small decision. It's like when you play video games, not me, other people, when you play video games for 3 hours, and your wife isn't wrapped with you, but she doesn't leave you. And you think, some of you guys, man, you're hating this message, hey? You're like, bro, I want to preach that other message, man. I can see clearly now. Where is it, man? That's right, just got quiet there. Video games, hey? New Year's, hey? Video games. But what happens is, we make small decisions and we wrongly conclude that the small decisions that we make don't matter. We tend to think that the small good decisions don't make a big impact and the small bad decisions don't make a big impact. But the truth of the matter is that our life is the sum total of all the decisions that we make. Come on, where you are now is the sum total of all the decisions that you make. The Bible says it this way, do not be deceived, God cannot be mocked. A man reaps whatever he sows. Come on, all you've got is a whole bunch of small decisions. Apparently we make like 35,000 small decisions a day, most of them without even thinking about it. Most of them are just habits, hey? But we make a lot of decisions, but our life is the sum total of the decisions that we make. They all matter and they all add up over time. That's why I was talking to Emily a little while ago, and come on, you want to just stand up for a little bit, Emily? It's a setup, eh? She's looking good, man. She's looking good. She's looking good. She's also single. No, just joking, Graham. See, you're right. Available, but, but, sorry, man, it's a setup. It was a setup. But I was talking to her a little while ago and said, man, how'd you get in shape? You go to the gym? She's like, no, I just started running. Just built a small thing into her life that added up. I want to tell you, where you are is not as important as the direction that you're traveling. And where you are right now, you could be in a great place heading in a bad direction, or you could be in a bad place heading in a good direction. I would rather be the guy in a bad place heading in a good direction than the guy in a good place heading in a bad direction. Because you multiply that out by 10 years and you'll see where you are, eh? Come on, it's the small things you do every day. It's the small things no one sees that results in the big things everyone wants. When we're married, we used to fight all the time. Now we just fight occasionally. And, and I heard someone say, like the first year of marriage, he talks, she listens. The second year of marriage, she talks and he listens. The third year of marriage, they both talk and the neighbors listen. That's what I heard. But I'm like, man, we just went straight to year 3 because we're like that. And so I remember I thought our marriage was all good. We're standing down Jones' place off Monrad. I thought it was all good until she stood at the door and said really loudly, man, I hate this, I want out. We're about a year in. I hate this. I talked to a whole lot of people who have these bad marriage stories and then they came to Christ and they were better. We were Christians and it was still terrible, but anyway, I'm like, man, I wish I had one of those stories, but I don't have one of those stories. We were Christians and it was terrible. And so, but I grew up without like a whole lot of great role models around marriage, around what it was like to be a husband and what it was like to be a father. See, my father probably spent, if you add it all up, about 4 months of my life with my father. And so there's a massive gap in my life. And so it meant I had to work really hard to try and fill in the gaps. It meant I read a lot of books, I prayed, I read the Bible, I prayed some more, I talked to a whole bunch of people, I prayed some more, I prayed a lot, and just, trying to make some changes. And here's the thing, it was no one big thing that changed our situation, it was a whole bunch of little things. And sometimes we look at the size of the problem we're in, and we want one big thing, but it's the small things that are going to make a big difference. Come on, I don't know if I'm preaching to anybody here or anybody in line that's facing a big thing. I want to encourage you, it's the small things that you do daily that are going to change and turn that situation around, eh? You can come to church and think, man, I want some big thing to happen, and God does do big things, but it's the small things that we do consistently that cause us to end up with the life that everybody wants, eh? And so I started saying thank you. I remember the first time I said thank you to my wife, eh? She looked at me, didn't know what to say. I just said, man, I'm going to start to say thank you, eh? And I started communicating when I was coming home late. I just started, hey, I'm coming home late, and start to learn to communicate a little bit, eh? I stopped, I cut down criticizing her. I can't say I cut it out completely, but just got to be honest. I'm in the pulpit this morning, I got to be honest. But I cut down criticizing her. Wish I could say I stopped completely. But I cut down and started encouraging her a little bit, eh? And she stopped hitting me, and it was awesome. But no, just joking, man, just joking, just having some fun. Sorry, I shouldn't joke about that stuff, but thank you, awesome. But you can fix big things by small things consistently over time. Come on, I want to tell you, as you step into a new year, as we're in a new year, and as you're thinking about goals and thinking about what you want to achieve, I want to encourage you this morning. It's not the goals that you set, but the habits that you set in your life that are going to determine the success of this year. You know, Matthew chapter 4, I love this. The devil comes to Jesus and he tempts him. And he says, he shows him all the splendor of the world. He says, hey, look at all the glory of the world and look at all its splendor. And he shows him something real big and something huge. And he says, all this you can have. And the devil tried to tempt him with some big thing because he wanted to take his focus away from the small thing. And he's saying, hey, you can have this big thing. And that's what the enemy tries to do. He tries to get us chasing some big thing so that we end up with nothing instead of focusing on the small thing so that we end up with everything. And there's a whole bunch of people, there's a difference between it. The difference between a dreamer and someone who's changing the world is their attitude towards small things. Come on, that's legacy. There's a whole bunch of people in church. We started 8 years ago. Now there's hundreds of people in legacy across 2 locations. Hey, come on, can we give God some praise for that? Hey, wasn't us, it was the Lord. But I tell you, there's a whole bunch of people praying for revival and they're waiting for God to do something big when, man, all we've done is just go out there and do something small. Go out there and love the one. Go out there and feed the one. Go out there and share the gospel with the one. Go out there and invite the one. We just go after the one, and there's these people, they're after big things, and they want big things to happen. And so they say, man, we got to do something big. Let's fast for 40 days. Man, I'm all into fasting for 40 days. That's all good. But man, let's just combine that with a little bit of small obedience and small faithfulness and small consistency. We'll probably see a bigger result. Simple thought this morning is your goals don't determine your success. Your habits will. It's the small things you do consistently over time that will cause us to win and lose. Come on, maybe the band we've got, we went from a box drum to a whole band. I don't know who to invite up this morning. Eh? Should I invite the percussionist or the electric guitarist or the bass player up? I'm not sure. Somebody, Kelly. But I want to encourage you just as we step into a new year, and as you think about direction, as you think about where you want to be this time next year or at the end of the year, I want to encourage you to focus more on who God's called you to be than what He's called you to do. Because if you focus on the who God's called you to be, the outcome will tend to take care of itself. I want to encourage you to focus on that. And I want to encourage you to commit to consistency in small things. Small changes. Because if you made 1% difference, if you made 1% difference to the amount of Bible you read, come on, who thinks they could do that? 1% of difference. So if you read nothing, 1% of nothing, still nothing, it doesn't work. But anyway, just like one verse. If you read nothing a day, then go from nothing to one verse. If you read, you can get so much better just through adding 1% to your life. And because you can have a goal, every Christian has a goal heading into this year that they want to know God more. Every Christian has a goal that they want to make a difference with their life. And they've got some big out there goal, but it's not, and that's cool, that's great for setting direction, but it's not the big out there goal, it's the small thing. It's the habit you build into your life that'll determine whether you win or whether you lose. And whatever your goal is, if it's weight, you know, you say, I'm going to eat one less cookie a day, and you eat one less cookie a day. Come on, this message is going downhill fast. You indulge me a little bit. If you eat one less cookie a day, that's like 200 calories. You know what will happen by the end of a week? Nothing. You know what will happen by the end of a month? Probably nothing. Jump on the scales, nothing changes. You know what will happen by the end of a year? You probably would have lost 5 kg. I shared this analogy with my daughter. She's like, whatever, 5 kg, that's nothing. I lose 5 kg in 2 weeks. Fair enough. What happens in 5 years? Just through making a small change in your life. Come on, we're looking for some big thing to change our life. What happens in 5 years? Is that, what's 5 times 25? You lost 25 kg. What happens in 10 years? I don't know, some of us can't lose that much weight, eh? It's like, some of you want to eat one more cookie a day. I know, it's got a mixed bag of people here, man. I got a mixed bag of people I'm working with. Some of you are like, man, I got to start eating a cookie a day. Some of your takeaway from this message is like, I'm going to start eating a cookie a day. Put on 5 kg a year, man. For the rest of us, we want to lose 1 kg. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We hope you've enjoyed the program. Legacy is in an amazing season. We're seeing phenomenal things happen on a weekly basis, and we're incredibly grateful for the many people that partner with us. People that sow into our ministry financially, people that pray for us, and people that serve on the front lines. If you'd like to partner with us, you can visit us online. Have a fantastic day.